Late at night, it haunts me with its frosted beauty. Order the cake, damn it!
Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first a quick word from my sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, Kiender.co.uk. Kiender stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to Kiender and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
Time to tickle your taste buds with this new one with a little bit of sweetness. Well, to be more exact, Sweet Mess Pastry Competition. This is from Zach Gioma and co-designer Johnny Pack, and it's from Peaker Games, which is essentially kind of like the lighter game spin-off of Fantasia Games, who are doing stuff like Unconscious Mind, Endless Winter, that kind of thing. This one appeared at Essen and I had never heard of it before. And I know some of you are thinking, but wait a minute, have you been in the cave? Well, yes, in terms of Kickstarter, yes. 6 years ago, I wasn't exactly going mad on Kickstarter, but apparently this was a game that was originally brought in and then the Kickstarter failed. I don't know the full backstory, but basically it went under, it failed, it got delayed, and so everybody's been like, 6 years in the waiting for this game. Peaker Games have basically picked it up, released it in this kind of new format, and as far as I'm aware, they're fulfilling it to the original backers, which is mighty nice of them. But this was also available at Essen, and I saw it on the table, the demo, and literally I just thought, what the hell? There's literally not much other reason for it. I just figured, well, I've already played your other games here, Unconscious Mind and the card spin-off. Why not Sweet Mess as well? Why not just complete the set? Almost like gamer bingo. But I wasn't exactly expecting much from it, but I figured, let's jump into it. It's got a cool cover, it's got very nice looking components on the table, and I was told that it had similarities to Splendor. Okay, a game that I rate quite highly in terms of gateway games. I'm willing to give it a look-see. In Sweet Mess, you are trying to be the best pastry chef in a pastry competition, and everybody is trying to gear for victory points, and the idea is that you are trying to complete these various different pastries, which have all sorts of, the cards going everywhere, all these different requirements for ingredients. These ingredients take the form of little mini poker chips, so not quite as big as Splendor, but not far off, and the idea is that you've got things like whipped cream and chocolate and crust and candy and jello, and I'm already getting hungry for pastry just going through that list. But the idea is that you will have these chips on the various plates in the middle of the table, and they're arranged in a kind of like a sort of grid form, and you choose an action on your board mainly to take the chips off those plates. And as you take the chips, they'll go into your storage, of which you have some restrictions as to where they can go. Sometimes it's got to be equals, everything's got to be the same, everything's got to be different, do it in pairs, that sort of thing. But it's not just as simple as taking chips wherever you want them. If you take all the chips from a particular plate, you make what's called a mess. So let's say I got 3 here and I decide I'm going to take all 3 of these. I then have to put a jello on every adjacent plate nearby, flip the plate over, and then carry on. So suddenly all these different types of ingredients are going all over the place on different plates, allowing players, including yourself, but mainly the opponents, to grab a different mix of ingredients rather than just most of the same. You'll then cash these in order to fulfill these cards, and these cards have requirements for what type of different ingredients go in them. Once you've actually prepared it though, it then goes underneath your board in its oven per se, and you get a bonus depending how long you want to leave it in there. Whilst it's in there, it just ticks down over time until eventually you can start to gear yourself up for one of these award seals. These award seals are given for having 2 or 3 of pies or cakes or whatever the hell the other third one is. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's tarts or something to that effect. And then that's basically the gist of the game. You have to, you have to sort of like jerry pick your actions because you have to choose a different one each time in order to speed up your oven, get tool cards which allow you to do lots of cool different like little shenanigan bonus turns, but also you can grab coins which allow you to do 2 actions in a turn rather than just 1 because they effectively come in pairs. But the main focus of the game is get the ingredients, trade them in for cards, put them in your oven, grab a bonus, let them out, and then fulfill the different seals for victory points. As soon as 3 seals are fulfilled by any player, that triggers the last round, and of course at the end, count up your points.
Of course!
Now I mentioned the word Splendor a lot because, well, Splendor is very similar to this game. In Splendor, you grab the gems and then you put them in for cards, and those cards allow you to build up an engine to get more cards and eventually win by victory points. Well, here it's not too dissimilar to that. I mean, you grab the chips off the plates, you trade them in for cards, you put them in the oven, they eventually come out and you get them for victory points and seals, but there's a few extra bits of meat here, which is a weird word to use when I'm talking about pastries, I do admit. But, you know, you can get tool cards, as I said. These allow you to do, you know, really cool bonus actions. You have different bonus effects that you'll get off the cards as you get them out of your oven. You have little event cards that turn up from time to time. You've got the whole thing of having to choose a different action each turn. You can also get, you know, permanent jarred ingredients, which are kind of like the ingredients that never run out. I mean, could you imagine having a jar of whipped cream that never runs out? I'm still getting hungry.
You put Cool Whip on pie. Pie tastes better with Cool Whip.
They act a bit like the cards in the original. So there is some similarities to Splendor, and definitely if you're not a fan of Splendor, I don't think you're going to like this game. I think it's just going to be, you know, I think you'll feel like it's more of the same just with extra bits added. There is a decent amount added, but I think it's, you know, you need to have enjoyed the feel of Splendor, because the feel of Splendor is definitely inherent in this game. But if it was just a case that you thought it was too simple and you wanted more stuff to do, well, then this one could be the one for you. Components I'm only going to talk briefly about because this is the deluxe version I bought at Essen. I don't know exactly what the retail copy will have in it, but put it this way, this cost me €50 at Essen. Most games retail don't even, you know, retail for €50, and I got a deluxe version at Essen for that. So it comes with these game trays, but honestly the game trays aren't that necessary. You know, anything that will store them is fine, but you get really nice colourful artwork on the cards. These pastries look gorgeous. I want somebody to make me them stacked so I can have a, you know, basically a giant dessert feast. These chips are really cool. I do love these chips. They feel good. They're not as huge as the Splendor ones, but, you know, they feel good in the hand and they slide in well. I particularly like these trays. These trays are basically for the players, and it's basically an inlay that you put on a tray that's already assembled, and it's got room to put your stored ingredients, you have room to put your actual gems that slot in nice and easily, you've got your action counter that goes in like a little hole on the front, the bottom bit is essentially your oven, so you know your cards go below there and slide along, and even the turn sequence and what you do is written on here. It's just a very nice production all round. If anything, the only thing that's a bit of an annoyance, and this is in the deluxe version as well, is these. You have these sideboards that basically surround the plates, and the idea is that if you make a mess and they're on the outside, they go onto these tiles. But the thing is that you have to make certain that these are orientated right and in the right sort of angle for the plates that are in the middle, and that can sometimes get fiddly, particularly if you knock these. Now, for €10 extra, I was able to buy the playmat. Now, I don't want to give it extra points for having a good playmat because it's not in the box, but this playmat is fantastic. It has all the placements for plates and the side bits on here, as well as card locations. If you have a chance to pick up this playmat for as little as the €10 I paid for it, then do so, because it's an absolute bargain.
Shut up and take my money!
The rules themselves? Well, I'm talking about something that's slightly meatier than Splendor, so you gotta expect that they're not that complicated. Well, they're not. The rules to this are very simple. They're written well, there's not a huge amount of pages in here, and there's a decent amount of pictorial examples, as well as just a good layout for what is what, and you've even got the solo mode at the back, which effectively has you going up a kind of Chef Motron AI, which, spoiler alert, works fine. It's not amazing, but it's a way to play the game solo, and it does the job, and all your icon references are on the back. But everything else you need to know is kind of printed on your inlay board, so the graphic design is easy to follow, and it's not difficult to see anything at all, with one possible exception. It is a little bit weird on these cards, where you have on your board effectively, and on the tool card, saying something that is either or, but then you look at here and you need to fulfill all of these requirements, even though there's lines in between the various components, but they've all got to be like different in terms of what ingredient chip they are. It's a little misleading, and you'll know what I mean if you see it up close, it's a little bit like, huh? What? It trips a few people up. But all you got to do is just drill it into their heads and eventually they will actually get it. But yeah, I've seen a few new players just like, oh wait, okay, I need to do all 3 of those. Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, the number I was thinking of was the letter M.
But as well as simple rules, the game just plays quite smoothly. You just choose a different action, maybe you'll do 2, you can use a tool card if you want, resolve the actions, next player's turn. The whole gaining chips and making a mess thing is just cool, it's cutesy, but I particularly like this oven mechanic on here. The idea that you can choose a really good bonus, but you gotta leave things in the oven for a little bit longer. This gives you a nice interesting choice because at the end of the day, you need to get them out of your oven in order to put the seals on this board once you've got the different icons. And of course, 3 seals will end the game. If you make every single one of your recipes go in the oven for the maximum length of time, you're unlikely to get a lot of these seals because people who do it quicker will just end up doing it quicker unless you've got a way to speed up your oven either with the action on your board or some tool cards. So you kind of have to strike a bit of a balance with which ones you're going to stick in for longer and which ones you're going to do for less. You could even just play a rush game where everything you make just goes on the 1 or 2 spot if possible, and so you try and get them out of the oven as fast as you can, get them on here as quick as you can, but then you're not getting a lot of the stored ingredients that really help you to do the larger recipes, so you might suffer in points, but can you rush the game quick enough before anybody else manages? It's just a cool little concept, and it works thematically with the game. The idea that you are making desserts and pastries and pies and you are putting them in the oven, and how long you stick them in there is going to make a difference. So that is a very good thematic touch that's represented well in a game mechanic. The game scale's fine from 2 to 4 players. I mean, adding more players basically just adds a bit more downtime, which is the way. It says 45 to 90 minutes on the box, and that's pretty accurate. 2 players should be able to get this done in 45 minutes, no problem. But you are looking at 90 minutes for a 4-player game, and I do maybe wish it was a little bit shorter. Like maybe if 4 players could get it down to the 60-minute mark, I think that would be perfect. 90 minutes with 4 players, sometimes the game does feel like it drags on a little bit too long, like perhaps outstays its welcome, particularly if you've got a slow player. And if you're playing this with relatively new gamers and casual gamers, there's a good chance you will have the slow player. And if there is one, there's not a lot you can do except wait for them to hurry up. So there is a little bit of a potential flaw with 4 players. I think 3 works very well. It's a good sweet spot. 2 is perfectly fine, although 3 just adds a little bit of extra sort of chaos to that middle plate section. You only change 1 or 2 things for player scaling, so there's not a huge amount of difference. But you can always whip this out solo, and that will take you no more than 45 minutes to finish. So it's not too long, but it's getting there if you have too many of you. Despite me saying that the rules are generally pretty smooth and generally pretty simple, there are a few minor nibbles I have with some aspects that maybe could have been streamlined or even taken out entirely. This whole choose a different action on your turn. There's only 1 action that allows you to prepare cards. The other 2 mainly for taking chips or maybe speed up your oven and getting a tool card. But when you're gaining chips, it's typically better to get them from the plates in the middle. Only occasionally do you need to really get them from the outside, although there is the advantage that it doesn't make a mess when you take them, so you're not replenishing the plates for other players. That can be good. But you're obviously having to time it back and forth with actually preparing recipes, and so if you're taking from the outside, you're not preparing recipes. Are you willing to take the tempo hit? But it's an interesting little mechanic, but I don't know how desperately it needed to be in the game. Maybe it would have been easier just to say, here are your choice of actions, and you can't do the same one twice in a row, and that would have been it. You could have tracked it maybe that way. The whole storage thing also doesn't seem to make a huge amount of difference, really. Yes, I can store 4 of the same crust in here. Yes, I can put 2 pairs of cream in there, and I need to put 2 cherries in there, and let's see, these have got to be different. So here we go, Jello chocolate candy and a cherry. There you go. So I've made a cool storage there. Rarely, and I mean rarely, does anybody really get caught out by the fact that they can't store things properly. Maybe occasionally they'll lose a chip, but otherwise it just seems like one of those little mechanics that doesn't need to be in the game. It's fine, and I don't mind that it's in there, but you could house rule it out and it wouldn't really change anything in the game.
Well, that was pointless.
Tool cards also have a little bit of a weird aspect where it says that whenever you get a tool card, you have to put it face down next to your board, and then when it's your next turn, you turn it face up and it goes into your hand, even though technically you don't have a hand, you just basically have your tool cards nearby. That just seems a little bit weird. I mean, why can't you just simply say take the tool card and you can't use it on the turn you get it? That's fine. I don't see why you need to have this extra thing of putting it face down so you don't even know what the tool card is, and then on your next turn, then you find out what it is, and then you can plan ahead. Honestly, I just find it's a lot easier to say, look, when you take a tool card, you can look at it, fine, you can't use it on the turn you get it. Nice and simple, everybody gets it, but then at least people can plan their next turn ahead of time for that tool card, because otherwise you force people to get into a situation when they might get the tool card and go, ooh, okay, that could do something nice, you know, and then they're thinking longer on their turn and AP starts setting in. There's just little nibbles like that, you know, they're not big deals, I don't mind them, but, you know, the game maybe could have just done with a tiny bit of streamlining, just a tiny little bit to wiggle out one or two of these weird rules, but overall, it's still not a big deal. Sweet Mess is, in essence, a meatier version of Splendor, which is not a bad thing, really. I like Splendor. I think Splendor is still one of the staple gateway games you need to have in your collection. It's not for everybody, but I still will defend it to this day. This is essentially Splendor with extra bits, with a more appealing look, a more appealing theme. I mean, the whole idea of baking really nice looking desserts and pastries, and even ice cream if you get the little promo module with it, is definitely more appealing than grabbing gems and hanging them to generic people and grabbing generic looking cards. I mean, you know, Splendor never had a theme to begin with. At least this one tries to embrace the fact that it's all about delicious pastries with its aesthetics, with its looks, and with the mechanics themselves, like with the oven. It just plays nice and smoothly. It doesn't take too long until you start maybe throwing a fourth player in. I'd say this is better as a 2 to 3 player game and occasionally solo, but it's just nice, smooth, and pleasant. It's a nice, light game that will take you about an hour to 90 minutes that people will just enjoy. You know, if you don't like Splendor, you're not going to like this. That kind of makes sense. But most other people I've shown this to have either gone out and bought the game afterwards, or they've been glad to play it, and they're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to play again. That just felt nice. You know, you go, you do it, you play, you're in a good mood, and suddenly you feel like having a cake afterwards. It's just that kind of niceness to it. But it's not a game that I'm going to want to play all the time, and I do think maybe a little bit of streamlining in places could have improved the game a little bit. And certainly, in terms of replay value, there's not a huge amount of variety in terms of like what will happen each game. I mean, the organization of the plates isn't going to change the game that dramatically. The pastries are all going to be just whatever, you know, put this in order to do this. It's not like the game changes that much. And your special ability is pretty much the same for all players. It's just pick which side you like and which piece it relates to. So there is the possible issue that maybe in the long run this one will start to wear itself out. But for now, it's a pretty solid game. I'm giving it overall an 8 out of 10. It's a great game, really enjoy it, one I'd like to keep, but does have that replay issue potentially, and certainly a few little niggles that do drop it from a distinction level rating. But I definitely put this down as a hidden gem of Essen. I did not see this coming. I really thought I was going to play this and it was going to be like, oh, this is their throwaway game. You know, like every publisher has the game that they put on their flagship, and then there's one table in the corner that's like, oh yeah, this is our game that we're a little bit ashamed of. We'll just put it here. Play us. Maybe play us. We'll play that. Come on, play us. You know, the one that they're a little bit ashamed of or bashful to do. This one was on full show, and I gave it a shot, low expectations, and it exceeded those low expectations. It's given me a good, fun, alternate version of Splendor that I can play with maybe people who, you know, can handle a bit more than Splendor, or if they just like baking, frankly. If they like baking and they want to play something light and fluffy, quite literally in some cases, then by all means, we'll play this one, and then we'll have cake afterwards. Or is it a lie? Have to see. 10 points if you got that reference.
Order the cake, damn it!
Anyway, that's it from me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the site. Let's get it in the hot reviews, people. Let's beat the Dice Tower at their own game. But until next time, you can check out more reviews on the channel. I have done Zoo Tycoon and Lands of Galzir recently, and of course, there's a lot of Essen reviews to come and other content besides. I'm hard at work, and my throat ain't gonna love me for it. Until next time, remember, regardless if you like to have a nice pie, or a nice little tart, or a nice slice of lemon cake, it's still only a game, and I am seriously hungry. Bye for now.